Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today's masterclass is about getting high-value clients without spending a dime on advertising. Now, before I get started, let me share with you why I feel strongly about this subject. Well, over the last 20, 30 years that I've been involved in sales and dealing with the public, I've developed a process. I've developed a system that today makes me an expert in inbound relational sales. My success rate with this process that I will share with you is 35% conversion rate with prospects that are just getting familiar with the offer, with the company, with the business, and with prospects that are a little more familiar and are comfortable and understand what the process is, closer to 70, 75%. Very powerful approach that I will be sharing with you today. So let's dive right in. Excellent. And before we get started, type in the chat, where are you joining us from? I see participants from, Emirates, United States, Canada, Malaysia, Norway. Interesting. Okay, welcome, welcome. I know there's different time zones. So let's dive right in. Now, getting high-value clients without spending a dime requires a certain approach, a certain way of doing things. But before I share that with you, first of all, we'll talk about how to attract high-value clients. Once you attract them, you're going to get some objections on pricing or reasons why they can't move forward right now. Usually it's due to their limiting beliefs, lower selves, or commitments that they have already. But I've developed a foolproof way to manage any objection without knowing a script. As long as you apply the process, you'll be able to handle and manage these objections. Then we'll go into an effective closing methodology. And there's more, depending on what kind of questions you have, and we'll role play a little bit, and I'll answer some of your questions after my masterclass. Now, before we get started, it's very important that as you get exposed to these concepts, the process that I'm going to share with you, you don't argue for your limitations. Because as Richard Bach says, Richard Bach was an author, a pilot, that had some very popular books in the 1970s. He wrote typically about his experiences as a pilot and his aspirations to become a pilot. But he said, argue for your limitations, and sure enough, they're yours. So come into what I'm going to share with you with an open cup, with an empty cup, an open mind, and the processes and the methods that I'm going to share may be a little bit counterintuitive, but they definitely work. They work to the point where I have customers that come back to me 6 months, a year, 2 years after my last contact with them, which is counterintuitive to what we've been taught in sales, that you need to keep in touch with prospects. And I'm not saying that's wrong. On the contrary, it's right. But the power of what I'm going to share with you is that even if you don't, applying the principles that I'm going to share with you, prospects will get back to you within 6 months, a year, 2 years, and say, I'm now ready to work with you. That's the power of what I'm going to share with you. So sit back, lean in, take notes, and get your questions ready. Now, there are 3 ways, and those are the only 3 ways that I've found to get clients. And I call that the 3 B's of getting clients. The first one is you buy them. And that's not what we're going to be talking about today. Buying them is you pay for advertising, and you buy into a list, you you pay for marketing, you pay for the clients. That's not the focus of today's topic. What I will be focusing on is building your client list. Now, everybody's got a list of contacts in their phone. If you pull it out, probably got a few hundred people that you know firsthand. The difference is the mindset behind the list that you're going to be building using my principles. It's not a transactional approach. It's not a transactional mindset. It is a relational mindset. So you're going to build a relationship, but the intention behind the relationship is to monetize it. Because if you don't have the intention of monetizing, you're going to become a friend, which is okay, but you're not going to be able to convert that, or it's going to be very difficult to convert that into a client. Consequently, the intent behind building the list is by building a relationship with the intention of having a commercial outcome, you'll be able to build a client base. And the second way that I'm going to be sharing today is how to borrow a list. Now, everyone that you know, just think about it. Everyone that you know has, like you, a list of a few hundred people that they know. What if you could tap into that and borrow their list? Now we'll start touching upon that. That's a very advanced technique, but that's the third way that you can get clients. All right, moving on. So what I'm promising you today is the following. Number one, what I'll share with you are simple techniques that you'll be able to apply immediately after you're done. Not necessarily easy, because it requires you to change your habits. It requires you to do things differently. It requires to change your mindset. And that's probably the most difficult part. Now, if you need help with that, I encourage you to reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to work with that on that with you. I have a coaching business, and my focus and what I'm known as is the architect of a growth mindset. And if that's what you need, I'll be more than happy to work with you. And if I can't help you, I'll be more than happy to refer you to someone that will be able to. See, that's part of borrowing someone else's list. Now, second thing that I'll promise is that it works even if you're busy. As a matter of fact, you can make this work. The strategies I share with you, you can make them work while you're busy. And the busier you are, the better it is, even though, actually, although you're busy, as long as you are interacting with others. If you're in a bubble, you're working by yourself as a lone wolf, these strategies won't work. The premise is that you are interacting, networking, connecting with people. Promise number 3 is I'll show you why farming beats hunting hands down. The difference is that in farming, you decide what plot of land you're going to work. Obviously, you're going to identify a fertile piece of land, and then you're going to start working it until you get your crop. Hunting is you're running after the game. That's not the approach I'm going to be sharing with you. It's more akin to farming. And at the end, there'll be a Q&A segment, and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Now, before we move on, Theodore Roosevelt was a politician, an American politician, even became president for a while, the 26th president, if I'm not mistaken. And he famously said that nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. Now, this is a pillar in the approach that I'll be sharing with you, because it's not about what you know. It's not about what you've accomplished. It's you opening up and being curious about the person you're meeting. What are their challenges? What are their accomplishments? Who they are, what they've done, what they would like to do, how you can help them. So by asking questions instead of making statements, you'll demonstrate without saying a word how much you care. All right, moving on. So the process of farming is actually an acronym that I've developed. And it stands for, the F stands for find your prospects. So step number one, you have to find your prospects to turn them into clients. So that relates to deciding what you want to harvest. You want to harvest low ticket clients, high ticket clients, businessmen, entrepreneurs, employees, executives. So first of all, decide what you want to harvest. And there's a whole process behind that that goes in helping you identify that, like the ideal client avatar, what is your unique selling proposition. Those are all elements that you need to work out. But once you've cleared that, then you'll be able to identify who is it that you want to farm. What is the field that you're going to be farming? Similar to a farmer identifying the type of pH that's in the soil, the type of weather that is where in the area that they'll be farming, the number of hours of sun. Those are all elements that are important. Same thing in sales. Then it's about working the terrain. As in farming, you have to remove the rocks, you have to filter out what's not good, you have to improve the soils and get it ready, till it, remove all the blocks of earth that are not helpful, so you can aerate the soil. Same thing in your prospecting. You have to filter, you have to go out, and you have to start prospecting these clients, approaching these clients, offering your services to these clients. And then you have to plant seeds, consistently plant seeds. That's what I was referring to before. Prospecting, making offers, that each offer, each connection, each conversation is a seed that you've planted. How long it takes for it to germinate and bear fruit really depends on how effective you are on creating a relational approach and how clear you are about your intent with that relation. So that's the F. The A in farming is attracting those prospects, crafting your message, how you dress, how you verbalize, how you interact with them. Are you interesting to them? So those are all aspects that are important for the A. Now, critical is to be authentic and genuine. People will spot a fake a mile away. Be quirky, be yourself, be genuine. Second element, be open and inviting. When you're interacting, if your body language is closed, you've got your arms, you're frowning, you're very serious, it's not very inviting. But if you are approaching people, you're asking questions, when they approach you, you interact and you exchange with them, that's being open and inviting. The third element in the A is being curious, being caring. Being curious is about asking questions, being authentic and genuine in your questions, not pat questions like, hey, how's the weather, where are you from, what do you do, but really, what are some of the challenges that you're having in your business, what do you do in life, how can I be of service, type of questions. Caring is actually listening and getting additional information and being really involved in the conversation. In attentively listening with intent is all about caring. And having a value-added mindset is about how can I help this person? Not about what you can sell them, but how can I help you? And finally, approach the situation with high intention of connecting, of helping, adding value, but low attachment to what happens. No one likes somebody that's needy, very, very sticky, very insecure, and is a green monster. Some people say green monster when you're really in need of, oh, I need to make that connection, I need you to become my customer. People will feel that and they will be pushed away by that approach. So that's A. The R in farm is relationship over transaction. So if you approach somebody with the intention of selling them something, that's not farming. That's transactional. That's hunting. But if you're approaching somebody with the intention of getting to know them better, getting to know their business, what are some of the challenges, keeping in touch without having necessarily the need to sell them something, that starts to create a relationship, acknowledging an event that's happened in their life, sending them some information that they might be interested in, referring them a book, or putting them in contact with something. That builds a relationship. Helping them with a project that may not be necessarily immediately compensating you, but puts you in touch with people and helps you create that goodwill in them. That's all about relationships. And think in 3-dimensionals instead of 2-dimensional. Think in the long term instead of short term. What do I mean by that? Well, thinking in 2 dimensions is I'm here, they're in front of me. I'm only thinking about the two of us immediately. 3-dimensional is looking beyond him. Remember at the beginning, I mentioned that you have a list of contacts of 200 people that you know, 250 possibly, but minimum 200 people. Well, each one of those 200 has another list of 200. So if you create a relationship and create some trust in the person you're with, they'll be more open to putting you in touch with their list of 200. And that list of 200 will open up a list of 200 each. So just imagine how many prospective contacts one person can have if you think 3-dimensionally. And think long term. Sometimes an outcome can take 3 months, can take a year, can take 6 years before materializing. You are planting seeds. If you're approaching this with, I need to make the kill today, this approach does not work. Second, understanding their 𝗨s. Well, 𝗨s is another acronym that I came up with. 𝗨s is basically what gnaws at them. But 𝗨 stands for needs, attachments, and wants, because these are the elements that are going to get that person to take action or prevent them from taking action. And when you understand those, then it's a lot easier to help them. Especially if you apply empathy. Just imagine if you put yourself in a position that understands them to the point where you can voice and reflect back to them their situation more clearly, more concisely, and more incisively than they are able to, you immediately show expertise and you build trust with the person. Then approach it as if you're their partner. You're their guide towards an outcome, not just a spectator. Which means that if you see something going wrong or not going in the right direction, or if you have an idea that might help them, as long as they give you permission, you guide them. And again, your relationship has to be based with high intention, low attachment. The worst thing you can do in a relationship, be it personal, be it professional, is wanting the outcome more than the other person, because then you're dancing alone. You're doing it by yourself. The person, you think they're following you, but they're really not engaged. You want to get their engagement. All right, so that's for the R. The last letter in the farm is M, and M stands for mind and mine. Now, when you are farming, keep their goodwill in mind. How are you depositing goodwill in your bank account? By helping them, by being there for them, by sharing information that might be beneficial for them. So that is their goodwill, is what you want to bank. Second thing, keep your mind open for all types of compensation and mine for them. Money compensation is only one of many ways of getting compensated. Unfortunately, we have been taught and we have been conditioned to only think of money. But money has only been in existence for the last couple of hundred years. Before that, how did commerce operate? Money is a standard that eliminates confusion, eliminates personal bias on the value of certain things. So it lubricates, it facilitates, but money is not the only way to get compensated. So some of the other ways that you could get compensated for someone that's not able or willing to pay the money that you're asking for is their network, which is borrowing their contacts, their authority, which is borrowing their position, getting a testimonial from them, getting a recommendation, getting a referral. That's banking on their authority, mining their authority. So that's another way you can get compensated. Just imagine if you help someone that's more successful than you and there's no compensation in there. However, they put you in touch with your next biggest client. Imagine what you can do with that. And their goodwill. If you are in their good graces, you've been there for them, you've been supporting them, and you've been obviously for somebody that you like and someone that reciprocates and values what you're doing, not for just anybody. Imagine when the time comes for asking them for a favor. You think they'll be more or less inclined to help you out. So that's the process of farming. Find, attract, create a relationship, mind and mine all sorts of compensations. All right. So moving on. What I've shared with you here is predicated with a mindset. Most entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs don't realize that mindset is magical. It instantly conjures or dispels that which holds us back. And questions are the spells that cast it. Asking the wrong questions will set your mind in a way that will prevent you from moving forward, from growing. Asking better questions will help you grow faster. So make sure to ask the right questions. Be very mindful of what you program your brain with, because that will set your mindset, set your mindset. And obviously, if you didn't know, what your mind is programmed to perceive, on the flip side of that, it filters everything else out. All the opportunities in the world are available, they're right in front of you, but only if you set your mind to see them. Think about when you bought your latest car. Didn't you notice all of a sudden how many of those cars were on the road? Well, nothing has changed. They were always there. It's just that now you are looking for cars that are similar to yours. Right. Moving on, objection handling framework. Now, this is a framework that requires no script. It requires the right mindset, but it will help you handle any objection in any situation after the objection has been voiced. Now, there's a more advanced technique that requires a little bit more work. And if you're interested in that, I'd encourage you to reach out to me. I'll share a link to book an appointment with me where you can preempt objections. Now, the framework is the following. First, you acknowledge the objection. You don't agree with it. You just acknowledge that there is an objection. Keep in mind that objections come from your side and your prospect side. If you're thinking in your mind, this prospect is going to be another tire kicker, they're not going to close, that's an objection from your point of view. You need to handle that. Don't let it pass, because if you accept it, then you just got closed by your lower self. If a prospect brings up an objection I can't afford this, then you have to acknowledge the objection. I realize this may be a lot of money, for example. Then step number 2 is to clarify. Why is that an objection? Why do you feel that this is too much money? Confirm that you understand. So you mentioned that you have these commitments, you've got financial obligations, this, that, the other thing. All right. So if I understand you correctly, it's a lot of money because of this, this. But do you see the value in being able to obtain this objective and overcoming this challenge, being able to realize this goal that, and have you been able to do it up to now? Ask if they are open to an alternative solution to achieve their goal. Before you offer advice, make sure the person is open to receiving the advice. Before you bring a different perspective to a problem, to a situation, make sure that the person is open. If they're not, you're better off giving them the possibility that there is a better solution. Let them continue doing what they're doing. And then when they hit a brick wall and they realize, oh, damn, what I'm trying isn't working, they'll think about you. When they say they are open to it, then propose an alternative perspective. Well, what if you were able to, in spite of all of these situations, manage to achieve your goal? Would you be open to doing that? That's asking. The alternative is, so based on what you're sharing, your goal was to achieve this in the next 6 months. How will you be able to do that with what you're doing now? That's one way of handling it. And then you can go into a more in-depth discussion on proposing the alternative solution. And then you repeat this process until the objection is handled, which makes you their partner in overcoming what they perceive as being real or imaginary hurdles in achieving their goal that they wanted, because that's why they're talking to you. They want help in overcoming their limiting beliefs or their limitations, or identifying that it's an excuse not to take action, and then you can just disqualify them. So that's the framework. Acknowledge, clarify, confirm, ask, propose, repeat until the objection is taken care of. Once you've handled the objections, you need to close, because without closing, there is no business. There's no money coming into. So here's a framework that you can use. First of all, you have to get comfortable with high ticket. If you're trying to sell, if you're trying to offer a product, I'll give you an example of cars. If you're trying to sell a Rolls-Royce, but you've only been comfortable driving in Toyotas, you're not going to understand the mindset. You're not going to understand the reasoning behind owning a Rolls-Royce. You're going to be from the point of view of practical, cost effectiveness, reliability. Someone that buys a Rolls-Royce, they don't care about those things. They care about other things. So you have to get comfortable with the pricing, but also the mindset that someone buying that kind of product, service, offer is going to have. Number 2, become the trusted bridge to bridge the gap of their needs. So their needs and wants is where they want to get to. Their attachments is where they're at. If they were able to bridge that gap between the two, they wouldn't be talking to you. They would already be doing it. So you become the bridge that's going to make it easier, cheaper, better for them to get there, and you'll be able to close the deal. Provide value in advance. Now, Providing value in advance has nothing to do with you. It's about what your prospect perceives as being valuable. And typically, it's all about overcoming the confusion on how to move forward. The hope that, yes, there is a way that I can do this, and give them the possibility of getting there, and give them a little win. Get them to take a step forward towards their goal. That's value in advance. It's not giving them the answer, because if they have the answer, they don't need you anymore. But giving them the taste of moving forward so that they get out of their comfort zone and continue and want to continue moving towards their goal, but not knowing how to get there completely is what's going to get them to come back to you. And remember, selling is about facts, figures, and features. Closing is about emotions and visualizations and imagination. So you want to close, identify the emotions on what it's going to look like, and the imagination on what it's going to look like when they do realize their goal. If they do buy the Rolls Royce, what is that going to look like for them? How is that going to make them feel? And then ask them to justify the logic behind it and have them close themselves on what you're offering. Which takes me to the next point. And finally, in order to close, create some movement towards their objective. The most difficult step to take in a journey is the first one. So if you get them to take the first step, even if it's not a close right away, but a first step in the direction of their goal, you've overcome the biggest challenge. Then I encourage you to eliminate your preconceived ideas and get them as far as they are willing to go in the number of steps they're willing to take, regardless of what you think. And finally, challenge them to take one more that they're a little bit uncomfortable taking. Get them outside of their comfort zone. Move them towards their goal. Move them towards their outcome. So that's the closing framework. Now, finally, I promised that if you wanted to dive a little deeper into some of the concepts that I shared with you today, that you'd be able to have an appointment with me, have a conversation with me. It's a no cost, no obligation, and it's an appreciation for you having invested these 45 minutes with me on learning how to get clients without spending a dime on advertising. What we'll do in this call is we'll address one particular challenge, one particular question that you had, and I'll give you some clarity on how you can overcome that. And after that, if you decide to work with me, up to you. And if you don't, that is perfectly fine, but I definitely encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity. It's a $500 value minimum. With that, I wish you a great day, and I look forward to speaking with you.